Hi there, MTSU friends. In our 1 hour session, you're going to get a good look at two features of Canvas. We will first look at modules, which are in short, how you structure your course and how to set up those items. And then we'll take a look at how you can facilitate course communication through various features available. So I invite you to log in if you want to follow along. Otherwise, CTM will make this recording available to you so you can walk yourself through it later. So I want to get right into it. We do have quite a packed agenda full of very informative points to make. This is what you see when you log into Canvas initially with each card representing a course. I'm going to head into my pre-calculus course here today. I did see there was a math instructor here with us. Please don't laugh too hard as I talk about making this fictional math class. Please have a little grace. But what we see here when we enter the course is supposed to be a welcoming area for students. The home page. This is not actually where the course content actually lives. For that, you'll want to direct students over to the modules area of the course, which is a link in this menu called Course Navigation. So when I select on that link, you are able to see what's called the module index. I know in D2L you had a similar structure where you had pieces of your course presented in folders, and it's quite similar in Canvas. So in D2L, no doubt you had some kind of a module or folder dedicated to presenting your start of class items. Uh, in Canvas, you can present a sequence of items, such as these items, to let students know if you need information about how this course works, you can go to this Start Here module, and it contains 4 pages with information, as well as an ungraded discussion where students can work with each other, answer each other's questions, and also ask questions of you. You can also build out similar modules to house your academic content. So in my example here, this is for pre-calculus, I have a module dedicated to those, that first unit, right? I have a page with an overview, a link to the syllabus, the textbook, all that good stuff. So I may have chosen to put this in terms of modules, like module 1, module 2, module 3. You might want to stick with that. You can also present your module structure by way of units, if you prefer, or chapters or themes in your course. And to address the first question there, which is a great question, if you look at my module 2, which is supposed to be for content, while there is no subfolder operation inside of a module, there is a way that you can create sections within the module. So I have an introduction section for module 2. I have a learning resources section for module 2. And then here's the work. This is what students have to complete. And then at the end, I have a wrap up and looking ahead page so that students can know what's coming up next in the next module. The key here is that you'll want to be very consistent. So if you choose a module structure, always have the same sections and don't switch in the middle of the semester either. So if you have done modules for 5 modules, stick to that. Don't go suddenly to a daily module that students find confusing. So to create a new module, in the modules index, you'll want to go to the module plus button that you see right here and select on that button to give it a name. So in my fictional class here, I want to make module 3, exponential functions, and then I'll choose add module. And at the very bottom is where your new modules appear. Unfortunately, there is not a way you can automatically make your new modules go to the top. but you can move a module. So here's one option. I can hold on this 8 dots configuration to move it up the page like that, and then let go. But you can imagine if you've got a lot of modules already, this could be a little bit more dragging and dropping than you anticipated. So if you'd rather not do drag and drop, you have a menu for each module, which lives right here in the 3 dots. And it's in 3 dots that you can access a move module function. So with just a few clicks, you can move your module instead of dragging. So I'll just choose move to bottom. So you can see this is really easy. I click move, and now module 3 is back on the bottom. And if I need to move it back, I can again choose move module. And this time I'll choose to put it after module 2. You see, Canvas knows my modules, so I can pick the module that should come before that. So now I have a open module that I can go ahead and start to add content to. Before I show you that, I do want to point out, I'm sure you've noticed there is a difference between this module and that. This module, module 2, is published. That means that students can access everything inside the module. Because you notice as well, there are check marks all the way up and down these items too. So the entire module is visible to the students. But this module is not, it is unpublished. So this is suitable for cases where you're still working on it. You don't want students to know what's here. And if you'd like to check to make sure that they can't see this module, there is at the top a View as Student Glasses button where you can put on your student glasses and check what modules are actually open. So this is what our students can see. Just start here, support module 1, module 2. So they don't know about my module 3, which is good for me because there's nothing in there yet. So now we go ahead and think about how to add content. And I know we're all staring here at this arrow where it says drop files or choose files. So let's talk about that first. You can click on this arrow to pull some files from your hard drive. And I admit I do not have a good example. I will go ahead and choose, I'll choose this document here to show you. I can click on open, and you notice it kind of zips in right into the module. And while the file is published, the module is not. So students still can't see this. Okay. Now, let's talk about naming and renaming, because as you can see, Canvas just kept the same name I had for the file. I would recommend that you maybe take a minute to clean this up because it's not student friendly necessarily to leave PDF here. So if you need to rename an item, you can. So I would head on over, follow the yellow arrow, to the menu for that item, this 3 dots right here. Choose Edit. And then here you can condense that title to make it a little more friendly to them. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this .pdf. And along the same lines, if you need to readjust your module title, so maybe you want something different, select on the 3 dots for the module, and then in Edit, you can edit the title. So you can edit the title for anything. Now, I know you also see here drop files here. Well, we chose a file. You can actually drag and drop. So I'll reduce my screen here just to show you. I've got some files peeking out here, like this file, for example. You can hold down on it and drag it, then let go. And that does the same thing. That puts the file in your course. So you have options for how you want to add your file. Now you can add many files in this way. Um, if you're looking to add additional items, and of course you don't just want this document here. You have a plus button here. So when you select on that plus button, this new window appears, and now you have options to add other things. Let's say you forgot, oh, I wanted to add two other files. Oops, I forgot. You can click on the drop down here and then choose File. And even from here, you can pick Create File, and this will let you search your hard drive. So this does the same thing. You can either do the drag and drop thing that you saw previously, or click on File and then do Choose Files. And then you can just pick your file to add. But that's not the only thing you can add to the course. There are other things. So let's take a look at your options. You can select assignment. Now you see in my list here, oh, Helen doesn't only have this create assignment button, she actually has assignments. You could create an assignment in assignments. I'm sure we'll have a future training on that. And then once they're created, you could add them here. So like this unit 4 problem set. And it's already made. I did it already. So I can click on that item here and just choose add item. Now, don't worry, like I've been there. If you have to make an assignment quickly, it's not made yet, but you want there to be another assignment. You can have this other option to create assignment, and I'll go ahead and make a 4.7 module 4 assignment. Now you notice here it comes in unpublished, whereas this was already published. When I go in to that new assignment that I just created, it is a true blank. So what you have here is a shell. At some point, you will have to go into the assignment through the edit button and add your settings and due date and directions. But for now, consider this as a form of planning, right? You're planning how your module is going to go. You also notice as you keep on adding items, the new items will always be on the bottom. So we'll talk about moving items in a moment. In this phase, though, I don't want you to stress about organization. I just want you to add things. So here's other options to add things. I can add a quiz. And like before, if you already have a quiz made, you can pick it here, or you can add a blank quiz and fix it later. Notice as we keep on adding items too, the icons of these change. That's on purpose. That's for a file. That's for an assignment. That's for a quiz. Other things you can add here include pages. Again, if you have pre-made pages with content, you can pick one, or you can make a brand new blank page. I'll call this module 4 agenda. There's that symbol for a page. And I'll also make a second page. Maybe this is where I want to add, the content, the PowerPoint, the video. And then finally, if I want to add additional content, there's other possibilities too. Maybe you like discussion boards. You can add a new discussion board from here, whether it's pre-made, or you can just make one later. You can also add external URLs. These external URLs are websites outside of Canvas. So I happen to have one here. It's this link to a YouTube video that I found. So I can grab the link to that article, that item, that video, whatever it is. Go back to my modules here. Actually, it's here. And in the drop down, choose external URL, and then I'll paste the URL here. Now, you will have to add a page name. Students won't know what this is unless you tell them what it is. So I'll call this graphs of exponential video functions video. And then there's add item. And that symbol there is a little chain link. Additional options you might choose to add depends on what you use, but MTSU has very kindly gotten access for you for a lot of what we call LTIs, right? Tools like I see Pearson's here. I see Cengauge's here. I see EBSCO's here. Oh, there's Google right there. Of course, you'd already have to have an account with these folks, but you would select your choice. And I won't go all the way through because I don't have a Google Drive with y'all. But if I chose Google Drive, I would click on that link and then I would search through my drive until I found the item. So it will prompt you to look for the specific document or PDF you want the students to access. So once you do pick it, this area right here will fill up for you. You don't have to do anything. And then you would click on add item, and then it appears here as a link. So you can add, in short, quite a lot of things. At this stage, again, you don't want to stress about order. So let me pause here since we're about 18 minutes in and see if there's questions I need to check up on. Oh, I think we're all good. All right. All right. Now I have just added things to the module. Is this suitable for student consumption? Absolutely not. We still have things to do. We'll pretend just for this training that we do already have content. So there's content here. There's content in this page. There's discussion directions. There's directions for the assignment. At this point, you will want to think about order. And for most higher ed instructors that I work with, they generally want to have the lesson content first and then the deliverables after. Makes sense. So I want to make sure that those reference items are appearing kind of closer to the top. Like this module 4 agenda. This page is where students understand the objectives of the module and what they're about to learn. And that I think should go first. So right here is that 8 dots. So I hope this helps. Think of it like a handle, right? Like a bag handle. This is a purse handle. So I'll take the handle and I'll drag it to the top because after all, students should know the objectives of the module first. And then next I'll want to put that reference information. So that would be this video here. And then move other items closer to the bottom. So maybe this file should be closer down here. I'll take this discussion and put it here. This assignment, that quiz I'll put here. This video, I'll kind of put here. So that's going to be step 1, right? Once your items are in, you want to put them in an order that makes sense. Is this ready for student consumption? No, not yet. Because even though it's in an order that makes sense to me, it's not necessarily student friendly, right? So at this next point, here's tip number 2 from Helen's mistakes in the past with students. I would rename this and I would actually use perhaps a numbering system. So here's what I mean by a numbering system. If I've already had module 1 and module 2, I hope you noticed here. In my module two, I do have such a numbering system where each item is designated with a number. 2.2 here, as an example, means module two, item two. So this is module two, item three. That was very helpful for me because students and I would argue over text, right? Like, where's the module four agenda? Then everybody would struggle to find it. But if I started to say things like find 3.1, that was a lot easier to bring forth to students. So I'm going to rename each of these items, making sure that they know they all belong to module three. So I'm going to take my module four agenda, edit that. I'm going to call this 3.1 module three agenda. So this is going to be 3.2. And actually, maybe this has written content on it. This I'm going to call 3.3. You get the idea. Because what students crave is consistency. I know it's very predictable to be typing in these numbers all the time. It's perhaps not what you anticipated to be as spending your time with. But if you keep that same format throughout, students will be able to find things really easily, which is what we want. So there's 3.6. I'll fix that title here. This is 3.7. And then maybe this is 3.8. So now you see this module starting to come together. It all of a sudden looks like there's an organization. Now, here's some other tips about organization. I mentioned that you can't do subfolders, right? And honestly, that sounds amazing. I would love that in Canvas. But for now, anyway, what we can do is create these sections within a module where I can create what are called text headers. Text headers are section titles, so I can make an introduction section title and a learning resources section title. And then I can insert clear spaces to separate section number one from section number two. So to add those sections, I'm going to click on the plus button here. And in the drop down, you're going to choose text header. So I'm going to make an introduction. And then you'll have to move it. Again, the new items appear at the bottom. So there's some dragging and dropping. So here's learning resources. And they start just about right here. And then I'll make student deliverables right here. The deliverables start just about here. Okay, so it's shaping up, right? I have three sections, but they seem to be a little crowded together. So if you want to make this clear separator between introduction and learning resources, you can select on the plus button right here. And when you choose text header, don't put anything. Leave this blank. Don't type a word or letter. So when you add item, there's your clear separator. And then I can move it in between intro and learning resources. And then I'll make a second one, just blank, to separate learning resources and student deliverables. Better, right? Right. And on top of that, here's two other tips for you. Even after I had set up this organizational system for my modules with students, including a section called Students Do This, sometimes students would say, I couldn't see the discussion. I don't know where it is. So what I decided to do was to use this new feature. It was new back then, now old, but it's called indents. And I'm going to indent every deliverable students have to complete. So these items are indented, but these are not. And that creates a clear visual separation between reference items and things to do. So to make a indent, I'll go to the first item like this discussion. Selecting on the three dots here, you're going to choose increase indent. And you can add more. So here's a second indent. And so you see there's a big difference between this item and that. And I'll do that for this assignment too, just so you can see. It really makes those particular items stand out, right? So then at that point, I told students, hey, if you see it's indented, you have to do it. Now that's how I did indents, by the way. You can do your own thing, but this serves as a great way to mark out to students specific items that need attention. Okay, amazing question from Connie here. I'll go ahead and address this because it actually fits here now. What does the student text headers look like to students? First of all, remember this is not published, right? So if I went to test student now, they still wouldn't see this. I have to publish this, at least momentarily. So you see, I clicked on that drop down, chose the first option to publish everything. And now I can go up to the top and do view as student. So let's focus on this, but I hope you can see that was the clear separator, like right here and then right here. Great question. And then afterwards, if you still don't want students to see this, you can unpublish. There is a drop down here where you can unpublish in all items. So now you can take it back, right? All right. So in short, that's how you can set up your module. Let me go into some, just a couple more advanced features, and then we'll switch over into the course communication piece. But you have here what I'd call the module essentials figured out. Let's first take a look at some options you have here in the menus. So I'll start with the module menu because I want you to know what's here, right? We know that you can edit the title of the module in Edit. We know about Move Module. You can move modules up and down the page. You can also move individual items from one module to another. That's Move Contents. So let's say I messed up, right? This video should have been in Module 2. I could do Move Contents to move that there. Or I can drag and drop and just push it up there, your choice. We know what delete does. It's obvious. But one interesting thing here that I do want you to know about, and it's assigned to. You see, by default, all modules in a course are visible to all students. But we now have a new feature called assign to where I can make a module just for two students. Maybe it's two students that need enrichment. Maybe they came in already having read the calculus textbook. I had a bunch of those. Or you have students that are just really struggling and you want to make a module just for those 10 students. You can. So you can make the module and then you choose assign to and pick out the specific students who get to see the module. Does that make sense? The other 90 students won't see it because it's not assigned to them. Only the 10 students whose names are here can see it. So that is available here under assign to. Some helpful tips and tricks to streamline things because we know that the middle of a semester can be a busy time. So here's some shortcuts. You can duplicate a module. That means you can make an exact copy of everything in the module. So if you really liked everything you had here, you can make a copy of every single item and then you can edit the copies like a digital photocopier. It's fantastic. Now, here's other options, right? I'm probably not the only pre-calculus instructor. Maybe my fellow instructors and I have a system. I make the module 3 module. Somebody else makes module 4. Somebody else makes module 5. So maybe I make module 3 and then I send it to my fellow instructors. It's like Amazon, just with modules. So if I know Lauren really wants this module, I can tell. So I can pick Lauren out. I can add additional people, by the way, but just Lauren is getting this. So she would pick up her mail in her account. So specifically in her account, she goes to this area called shared content. And then from here, she can pick whether to ignore me or to import the module I sent her into her course. So you see, you don't have to make modules by yourself, right? You can split up the load. If I'm teaching different levels of math, which I probably am, let's say I have Calculus 101 and then I have this pre-calculus class, there's going to be similarities. So that's what copy 2 is for. If I'm doing exponential functions in both classes, I can move this module over to a different shell. I just choose that other course and copy it over. Does that make sense? So let me pause here because I have fired off quite a lot of helpful tips here, but I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Yes, that is correct, Ariana. 100%. How can you reopen as an assignment that a student has missed? We will have an assignment session. We can cover it there, but in short, yes, you can reopen an assignment, extend due dates. You can even give a student their own due date that's different from everybody else. All right. A few other tips here, and then we'll move on. You saw here this drop down here where you can publish the module. That's very quick and simple. You can get that done 1 minute before class. It's great. If you have to take it back, you can click on the drop down here and then choose unpublish. And if you are interested in release conditions, Canvas does have its own version of that. Uh, that involves a feature called requirements. So to go to requirements, you have to select on edit. And in the settings, there is a button here called requirements. So here is where you determine what students have to do to get the next item released. I know you would prefer a system like this. I did too when I was teaching. You must complete everything I list here, but you have to go in order. So I'll just do a couple to show you. I want students to see the agenda and click a button to tell me that they actually saw it. I also want students to contribute to a discussion, but they have to do this before they do this, right? And then I'll do one more. For assignments, you can require that they have to submit the assignment or they have to get a certain minimum score. I'll just do submit the assignment. Now, I've only done a couple, but here are the requirements. So now when you check this in student view, which you should always do, my test student here hasn't done anything. So they can't get to anything until they've done this. Forgive me, I don't have anything here, but here is that mark as done button. Now, if I feel like I'm crafty and I want to evade you, you see, I can't even go on because I didn't click that button, right? So now I have to go back and actually click mark as done. And now that I've done that, I can actually go on. Because watch, right? I can now see the next thing. And as the students complete those requirements, they will get checked off. Actually, let me show you that in View as Student. So you see right here, there's a light green check mark because our test student did that. And the next lock is right here because our test student still hasn't done this, so I can't go on. So that's how the requirements work. One other option here, you can publish. Let me go ahead and show you that here. There we go. Back in edit, there is a lock until button right here. So I'll choose a date way in the future. And once it's locked, there will be a date listed here that the students will see. So when you check in View as Student, I can see things exist, but I can't get in until February the 5th. That, my friends, is modules in a nutshell. So let me pause here and take a look. Carmelita has a great question. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. Uh, Instructors only have the ability to see unpublished things. So, mhm. Any other questions about modules before we move on to communication? All right, excited to learn about communication? Well, let's go. Since we're in modules, I want to I want to go ahead and start with a module item that serves as a great forum for communication, and that is the discussion. Uh, Actually, they have one here and start here, right here. Notice your discussions have a speech bubble as a symbol. Now, the reason why I mention this in a communication context is because you can have an ungraded discussion. And that's the feature I want to focus on for today. I don't want to talk about graded discussions today. These are ungraded opportunities for students to interact with each other and interact with you. And I think the course Q&A is a classic example of this. So we have here some great directions. This is where you can ask questions, support each other, maybe post study guides. And right here is a reply button where you, because you can do anything in the course, but also students can post their replies. And it works like how you think it works. Most students will just type, which is fine. Notice that they have some great opportunities to add detail to their items. So they can format, they can add tables, they can add links, pictures, graphics. They can even add video. They can add embedded documents. There are some additional tools they may have access to here under View All. They can even attach files like PDFs. They can even check for accessibility when creating those replies, which is a best practice. And then they hit reply. That's it. So just to show you how easy it is. And so I've gone ahead and created that reply. So my name is on there, right? There is even a way for students to reply back to me. And dependent on the settings of the discussion, which I'll get to here shortly, you can allow students to like each other's posts. There is even here a possibility for you, the instructor, to get a summary of all the discussion replies that students create and generate. And then some options here in the three dots to do things like quote reply a student, or students can even report if a reply is inappropriate for the occasion. So remember when I was showing you modules, right? I showed you how to create a discussion. You can click on the plus button here, and then in the drop down, choose discussion. I'll just make a unpublished one here. Click on the drop down here. You're brought to the empty discussion where in the three dots, you would click on edit. And then here is where you would enter in your directions. Now, there's nothing wrong with starting from a blank. Really, there's not. But since you have access to some great resources in the Canvas Commons, you could also duplicate a discussion. Remember, this discussion has a nice format. So another way to generate a discussion is to duplicate one that already exists. So either of those works for me. So now in the directions, the edit space for the discussion, remember, we're going to leave this as ungraded, so don't check the box. Leave it alone. If you want to allow liking, then leave it checked. But because this is ungraded, you have this anonymous discussion option. And believe me, it's an option. You don't have to use this. But I think it depends on your course. Maybe in like graduate level, upper level humanities, social sciences, you have some sensitive topics that are being discussed, and you don't want students to feel like embarrassed to share certain points of view. So maybe you want to turn on anonymous discussion. Now, if you leave it off, everybody can see that Lauren said that thing. Sorry, Lauren, you're right there. Which is fine. You can leave it off. If you do want to turn on anonymous, you can choose either partial or full anonymity. So here's the difference. Okay. Full anonymity means, I'll pick on myself this time. If Helen, your student, said something, it really means you can't find out who said it. Like there will be a kind of an anonymous fake name pasted there, but you still won't be able to tell that Helen said that thing. That's full anonymity. Partial anonymity means Helen gets to choose whether to reveal her name or not. There'll be a little drop down where she can make that choice. So if the use case presents itself to you and you want to do it, choose whichever one you want. But if you're not comfortable, there's no harm in leaving that off. There's a couple of other options here you might like, such as participants must respond before seeing other replies. There's also here this option to add to the student to-do list. You see, because it's not graded, there's no due date. So if you still want students to do it by Monday, your only option is to add this ungraded discussion to the to-do list. So right here, you would click on the calendar, pick that future date. So now students have to submit their reply by, in this case, January the 30th. Now, if it does happen to be like a kind of a discussion situation where you want students to interact in small groups, because the default is for all 100 students to be on the same board, you can turn on group discussion options. And in the group discussion options, you can pick the particular groups that you have already set up inside of People. Maybe we can do a future session on groups because that's a whole other topic in and of itself. Other options that are here really help you dictate how the discussion appears to students. Expanded all the threads or collapse all the threads at once, for example. And then finally here, you can dictate when students can actually access the board. So maybe it's available from the 29th until, I don't know, February the 10th. And then I would click on Save and Publish. All right, let me just pause here. Now, there are a couple of interesting questions here in the chat. Multiple due dates for a discussion board are only possible with graded discussions, not with ungraded discussions.
Can you also, there was a question, can you gather info on who has or has not replied to, like in the from the perspective of the faculty, how to see that and deal with it?
Hmm. I admit there's not a convenient way to do this, perhaps. Um, as long as you have off enabled for anonymity, so it's not anonymous. Each student's name and profile picture is listed on their reply. And I think inside of course analytics, there's a possibility for you to see if students have accessed a particular discussion board or not within a certain week. But it does entail a little bit of digging. You will not be able to get, say, a one screen where you can see a list of all students and whether they looked at the discussion board, which I know you do have in D2L, and which, by the way, sounds amazing. But we don't have that one dashboard view in Canvas.
Can they use, in if it's a graded discussion especially, can they use that like in the,
Oh, they
I
could
guess
use the
they'd
board
have to have
viewer.
graded it, but the message people who thing?
Mm-hmm. Because then, yeah, and with message students who, that's a feature where you can send targeted messages to certain students. In the message to section, you would see the names of students that have done it or have not done it. So in that sense, you can tell, oh, these 5 students didn't do it.
And then the only other question I saw was something I didn't quite understand. The banner or title ungraded discussion was problematic for screen readers.
There's a way to check on this. So right here, you see this accessibility symbol, and this is our accessibility checker. I see the accessibility checker did not flag the color contrast. So that tells me the color contrast is not an issue. And honestly, text here that is entered in the rich content editor can be perceived by screen readers. As a matter of fact, we do a lot of extensive testing with various screen readers to check that on a regular basis. Now, if it comes to things like embedded PDFs, the accessibility checker cannot check your PDFs, but it can check your entered content in this area. All right, so that's ungraded discussions. Great ways for students to share, but what if you've got an emergency situation? What if, like what happened to me one day, you pop all 4 tires and you realize you are not coming to class? How can you send a message to those students really quickly? And the answer is the announcements area. So it lives right here. And in announcements, you can create an announcement here pretty easily. As a matter of fact, in that particular situation, I used my Canvas teacher app to create the announcement, and it went out to all the students in my class at once. It was very easy. So let's say I need to move a quiz title, move a quiz date. Week 3 quiz moved to next Tuesday. Uh, I just typed in my announcement, right? You can also type in the content of your announcement here. You can add details if you want, or you can keep it simple. Check for accessibility here, attach files here. You can allow liking here. And neat for those pre-planners among us, if you like to make your announcements in advance, that was me. I wanted to make my welcome to chemistry class. I taught chemistry. Welcome to chemistry before the first day of class. I could write it in advance and make it so that it only appeared at a certain time. So I can make this announcement appear February the 9th and only have it be visible to students until the 13th. So after you have your content here, you can then save it. And because I set it to open, students will receive that announcement on February the 9th. Okay. And you'll want to talk to your students too and make sure they know they should have announcement notifications turned on. Notifications for students are set in their account and inside their notifications area. And I told them you had better have it on. If I send an announcement, it's important. And so you don't want to do announcements too often, I don't think. Yep. Finally, in regards to announcements, let me show you my home page here. You notice on my home page, I have a recent announcements area because I found I would post announcements, but students would say, I didn't see it. So you could put your announcements on the home page so they have to look at your announcement. So to make this visible, there is a particular setting you have to turn on. So it lives right here in the settings link. Scroll down in the screen and then click this checkbox right here. Show recent announcements. I would recommend you just have one. So then students have to see the announcements because it's sitting there on the home page staring them in the face. And they will not miss an announcement that way. Students can set notifications for that. Let me show you just a little bit of what that is. This is the instructor side, but it looks similar for students. So you would tell students to go to their account, go to notifications, and we're looking for announcements. You would tell them, I always told students, this is the first thing I told students, first day of class. You're going to take out your laptops right now. You're going to open Canvas. You're going to go to notifications. You're going to go to announcement, and you're going to turn announcements on to notify immediately. So whenever the instructor posts the announcement in the course, they immediately get an email. So that's announcements. The last thing I want to show you here is the inbox. The inbox is kind of like email. It will not replace your MTSU emails, but there is a way for students to send you messages in Canvas without having to open their MTSU Outlook. So they click on the inbox message right here. When you click on the inbox message, you may see messages that students have sent you. So here's the use case. I sent a message. Bruce sent me a message back. And then I sent him a message. And as you can see, I sent a video message. So if you would like to send an inbox message, you would click on Compose a New Message. Let's say I want to send a message to just the calculus students, so I pick calculus. And if it has to be blind carbon copy, I pick send an individual message. And here I can pick everybody in the class to get the message, or I can just pick specific people. Here I type in the subject, type in the message. You can add an attachment. You can even add a video. I promise I brushed my hair. It's not going to look like I did here in a minute. But if I choose record, you can record it from here. If you're shy, you can turn off your webcam. And you can do an audio message. Otherwise, students find it really engaging if you have your face showing. And then you click on start recording. Hi there, everyone. Just wanted to welcome you to Calculus at MTSU. So then that way your students can receive this playable video and get that message, directly from you, so to speak. And then you hit send. And the notification does come to their MTSU email. Yes. If the message you sent was just text, like this message here, they can even reply directly to the email through their email. So they're very much connected, the Canvas inbox and the MTSU mailbox. And that, my friends, is course communication in a nutshell. You've got announcements, you've got the inbox, you've got ungraded discussions, and then whenever you set up those assignment due dates, they also appear on the course calendar for students too. So that's also a great way to communicate. But I have to let you go here shortly.